What up, y'all? Appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my dumb ass. Like, subscribe. So, seems to be a bit of a leaky leak on the Sony side, where the document in question is a leak from to date now till from the beginning, PSN, the downloads. The digital downloads, money, units in the different regions, America, Europe, Japan. It's all there on a big giant chart, blue and white. I was watching David Jaffe's Gaming and Gabbing and Gaming, right? And he put it up there. And I mean, he took I don't want to call it pragmatic, but he took somebody who used to work at Sony who doesn't care, but still tries to be fair approach. And he said, well, you know, these numbers are kind of, you have to take into account this, that, and the third. You can go watch the show and see exactly what he said. But the fact of the matter is that the top game downloads on PlayStation this is PlayStation 4 and 5, by the way, was, surprise, surprise, Spider-Man, right? And so Spider-Man, download-wise, only sold a little over 8 million units. Spider-Man, digital. And so those are things that you can't really, well, you know what? I can't say that, but I was about to say, those are things you can't really fake. You know, if you fake digital sales, then you can probably get in big trouble. Now, like for physical sales, there's ways you can get around it. You can produce 20 million, right? And then, you know, you actually sell 10, and then you take the other 10 and say, well, we're going to put the money in and count them as sales and put them as giveaways or this, that, and the third, or, you know, for overstock, for returns. But, you know, this probably, I'm just guesstimating. I'm just assuming, you know, what that does. That Sony would be doing something like that because they are not the most honest. I just saw a post, this is a little bit of a tangent, from Tim Dog, and he's basically saying that Xbox is dishonest, how they try to treat their customers and stuff like that. He said, thank God for PlayStation, and I'm like, he's literally he's flipped. I mean, he flip-flopped, obviously, but what he's describing as Xbox is literally PlayStation, what they've been doing all this generation. I said he's got to, at this point, he has to be trolling, because the fact that he's just totally ignoring all of the things that Sony has done this generation, increased prices on everything, charging devs for this and that. You know what they've done, right? And they're not even putting out games. So what is the worth of PlayStation at this point when they're not doing anything positive for the industry? Anyway, going back, the whole Donut County, that was a good game. The thing about this chart with all these numbers on it, and Spider-Man being the top selling, making money, revenue, and all that stuff. I mean, this is just digital sales, so whatever the physical sales were is whatever. But this is an indication. Now, the whole thing about Jaffe and what he was saying is that the move from physical to digital was happening. So, you know, the games that are back, you know, years before are going to sell less digitally than the years, you know, moving forward. And so Spider-Man, I think, is in the middle there. I think Miles Morales but Spider-Man was the most selling game. The most sales. So, and no, but I'm not even going to, because that was 2021. Or was Miles Morales 2020? No, I'm conflating some dates. But anyway, whenever it sold or whenever it was last on sale, well, actually still on sale, according to I guess, it should still be in the store for sale. But anyway, the fact that Spider-Man was the highest selling game, is telling that Sony's IP aren't that great. Now, number 2 was God of War, so Jaffe, thank you for creating that. Even though he didn't create that particular one, you know, he was the originator. So once again, thank you, Jaffe. And if you look at this list, I'm going to try to put it in either in the comments, or I'm going to probably put it like, up in the, while I'm talking, and put it like here or something. And it's really telling, like how little money Sony makes with this digital stuff, and why it explains to me why they're so adamant about console sales and physicals and all this stuff, physical, and special editions and all these things, because they're not doing it. And I think the problem is the type of games that they're making. I've said this before. They're not making games for people to play forever and ever. They're making these one and dones, and a lot of people are just not. No, thank you. No, thank you. Goodbye. And so that's what's happening. This I had no idea about this list, about this chart. And when I saw it on Jaffe's thing, and I was like, what? And he was talking about, it's like, wow, this game only sold this. And like Spider-Man, just think about every other game that's like better than Spider-Man. I don't think Spider-Man 2 is on that list. Actually, I didn't see it. So I wasn't looking for it. But I would assume Spider-Man would be above Spider-Man 2 would be above Spider-Man anyway, so it might not be on that list. But if you look at all the lists, NBA, the show, all of those are on there. They didn't sell that much. I think 21 sold more than 23 and 24, but I think at that point they were going to Xbox Game Pass, so some of those sales were absorbed through Game Pass subs. You know what I mean? I mean that's lost money for Sony. They should wake up. Get with the times. And so this only supports the notion that Sony's business model is all wrong. It's all bad. It's not good, because a lot of those poor sales, and you can look in the Twitter thread, a lot of the poor sales were Steam. You look at Steam, and it's like those were the games that they released years after, and they're only selling 800,000 or 400,000 or something like that. Like big games, like it wasn't Returnal. I know Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart only sold 1.6 million digital. So, and some other games of note, like, oh, these are Sony exclusives, they sold nothing. It's like, that's a failure. You spent all this money and you only sold not even 1 million? You didn't break 1 million? Once again, Dutch Digital. So I don't know what their physical thing is, but still, let's pretend it's half, even though digital is more. Pretend it's half. It's still not a lot. And this has been happening for years, but they haven't been saying anything. They say, oh, they go and brag. I'm like, are y'all really telling the truth? Or is this all lies? Are y'all all lying? Have you been lying for years in order to act like and look like you're successful? Kind of like an orange-haired old man that's, who I'm talking about, right? This ain't about politics, but he does do that. I'm just saying. I mean, is Sony literally a narcissistic company like that? Or they're just going to, let's lie and make believe that we're good so that our investors don't cry and sell all their stock? Kind of like what they did recently when they didn't meet their sales expectations on their consoles. And Sony lost $10 billion. I mean, is this chart going to make Sony go down even more? I was looking at the thread. I couldn't read it all. I was like, this is so shocking, because the forward-facing kind of image of Sony is like, oh, they're the best. They're the console. They're the market leader. I'm like, how are they the market leader again? Because you say, because they sold a lot of consoles. I'm like, yeah, they did, right? I don't know if they did, because nobody's buying games. So how do you sell the most consoles and nobody buys games? That's the antithesis. I can't say the word. That's just the antithesis of that actual business model. The business model works this way. You sell consoles at a loss usually to get people in your ecosystem to sell games. But if you don't get that last part, then the whole model is destroyed, tumbled down. It doesn't work. The model doesn't work if you don't complete all of the different parts of it. And Sony is not completing that last part. If they have 50 million units out there, right? Why are you only selling 8 million digital copies of Spider-Man? Should be way more than that. That's where I think the game numbers, their physical game numbers, are kind of sus. Just like how their physical console numbers are sus. And they say it and people believe it and they repeat it. And they say, oh yeah, Sony's doing good. They're the market leader. I've heard so many people say that Sony's the market leader, but they can't tell me how they're the market leader. And they say, oh, because they sold the most consoles. I'm like, okay, how much money did they make off of selling the most consoles? Versus total amount of profit. You can't say, oh, they sold the most consoles and negate the fact that they spent more money. That negates the fact that they sold the most consoles. That's bad business. And they've been doing bad business for a long time. And it's coming to fruition right now. And you're seeing the change. You're seeing the change in the industry. It's more about all these Donkey Unicorns and these ponies having kind of a shell shock, having kind of a PTS, if you will, of the fact that, oh my gosh, they have to change. And I don't like how they're changing because they're changing into something that is something I don't like. What Xbox has been doing. They've been leading the way. They've been doing it since last generation. They saw it. They saw the writing on the wall. I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, we don't have to do something else because we can't sell these consoles. And even if we do sell these consoles, we're still losing money on these consoles. It's a bad business move. And even if we sold a lot of consoles, the type of money that we're getting, blah, 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 it wasn't working. And then they looked at everything. They look at consumers. They look at the digital landscape as far as consumption of digital media, which includes video games. And they saw Netflix. They saw Disney Plus popping up. They saw all these things. And they're like, why aren't we doing that? And they did that. And now Game Pass is the de facto best deal in gaming. And if you want a streaming service, it's Game Pass. Not PSN Plus, PS Plus, whatever it's called now, PS Plus. So yeah, it's not that. That's not the de facto, that's the best one. It's not. The best deal in gaming. That's what it's been called. And that right there, this happened last gen, that started the change. And Microsoft knew it. And Microsoft saw it. And they were like, yeah, we're going to change. The industry's going to change. Sony's been stubborn. They're not changing nothing. So they're going to just stay there all day, every day. And so the industry is changed in such a way that Sony has to change. Because if they don't change, they don't adapt to the situation, then they're going to get left behind. They're going to go out of business. That's what's going to happen. And so, Sony sees it. Hiroki Totoki sees it. He's making some moves. And he doesn't care what the Ponies and Donkey Unicorns. He don't care. He's the money man. He's like, this is how we're going to make this money. And he's doing it. Which means day and date on PC. Guaranteed. Just wait. It already happened with Helldivers 2, which is supposed to be first party. So yeah, it's already happening. So whatever. You could pretend it's not. We already got PlayStation exclusives on Game Pass. Day and date. Oops. So, it's happening right before your eyes. And Tim Dog's sitting there crying about Xbox. You can be crying about PlayStation soon, too, because they doing the same thing. You got to wait 18 months. How long is it going to be? A year until you get some type of PlayStation first-party exclusive? Tim Dog is the clowniest clown I've seen on Twitter in a long time. And I see some clowns. But him, man, wow. I'm getting numb to his stuff now. It's like how do you destroy your reputation? Go his pictures. That's his picture. If you want to know how to throw away everything, just do what Tim Dog doing. I mean, is he trying to become a pony? Is he trying to gain that pony support? I mean, now is the worst time to do that because Xbox is on the rise, PlayStation is on the decline. PlayStation is on the decline. We see it happening in front of our faces. They don't even have a CEO for real. They got, Hiroki Totoki filling in Ghostman's shoes. They fired the last one. You see all these negative things, and he's like, thank God for PlayStation. And I'm like, what have they done for you lately? That's the main thing. What have they done for you lately? Not much. They're putting out games or they're putting out... Last thing. I saw this, I think it was yesterday or today. Returnal. Okay, so Returnal's a cool game. People like it, whatever. So Housemarque, they put out a post. They had a picture, illustration of whatever the hell her name is, the star. She's got the two color eyes. Chimera, that's what it's called. She got the David Bowie. Actually, David Bowie has something different. Anyway, and Ponies and Donkey Unicorns were hyped. They were like, yes, let's go. J-Dub's like, let's go. Returnal news, a new game. Baby, Returnal 2. Ooh. Man, Housemarque totally trolled all the Donkey Unicorns under Pony. I saw that. I saw what they posted. And I saw what it was. And I was like, hell. Oh, man, that's wow. That's like a swift kick in the nuts right there, boy. They were like, yeah, we go to oof. I'm like, wow. Who over at Housemarque thought that was a good idea? They know how hungry these ponies and these donkey unicorns, their buckets are empty. There's not one granola crumb. Wow, that's a word. There ain't no crumbs in the buckets. They got no hay to chew on, no oats, nothing. No apples, nothing. They hungry. So they jumped the gun on some Returnal news. Find out that the Returnal news is they're making a comic book. A comic book. Now the comic book might be alright. You never know. I mean, the art looked pretty dope. I was like, it's all painterly and stuff. I was like, that looks good. But that's not a game. When you have no games, when you have no first party games, 0 games, and you sitting here and Housemarque puts out Returnal, look out, here we come, and it's a freaking comic book. Wow, that's like smack. That's like that, that's like that slap fest or whatever they call it, where the big dude and the little dude smacked the big dude, and the big dude just put that other dude in the coma like a crack, and his soul jumped out of his body like freaking Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. It was crazy. I'm like, wow, that's just. That's what PlayStation is. That's what I can't even talk. It's so this is the state of PlayStation. Announcing comic books, getting their fans hyped and super disappointed. They got nothing to talk about, nothing to play. So they're playing Sea of Thieves. They're playing Xbox games. This is like a turn of events that no one saw coming. Like Ponies and Donkey Unicorns would be cheering and making fun of Xbox because the game's on PlayStation, right? Meanwhile, these Ponies and Donkey Unicorns are buying these games. However they do, whatever however the sales are, whatever, that's irrelevant. They're talking about these games like they're their own, They have that privilege. They have that privilege syndrome, whatever. And I guess they don't realize that when they buy Xbox games, wherever Xbox gets paid. So you could be like, yeah, I don't need the Xbox. And then Microsoft is like, yeah, you don't, as long as you buy those games. Oh man, it's so goofy. People are so goofy. And people they're just, I don't know if they're just ill-informed or if it's just the tribalism that takes over, so that they don't really think logically and say, okay, well, I know Sony gets 30% because it's on their store, so they're getting a little something. So it helps Sony out for Xbox games to be on PlayStation, right? But it helps out Microsoft more because they sell more. And I said this before, Microsoft is taking advantage of the player base of PlayStation. So PlayStation does the hard work of selling all their consoles, possibly at a loss for the most part. They say they're making profit, but who knows how true that is. They say whatever they need to say in order to please their shareholders. And, so let's pretend they're making a couple of bucks on the PlayStation. That's fine. It's still not enough to, cover. Like the profit on a piece of hardware is less than profit on, generally speaking, on games. But the way that PlayStation makes their games, probably not. Anyway, like I said, their business model is archaic. I can't even say words. It's archaic and it's out of date, which is the same thing. And, you know, Hiroki Totoki is leading the way. We'll see the change, but we're not going to see it like, boom. Oh my gosh, Hiroki Totoki is destroying PlayStation. No, Jim Ryan destroyed PlayStation. Hiroki Totoki is trying to bring it back to life. I don't see how they will be able to be that PlayStation that they were, I would say, I guess in the beginning of the PlayStation 4 generation, when they weren't spending so much money on these games. And when the budgets got too high during the PlayStation 4 generation, that's when the seams started to show, and that's when the end was, you know, that was the beginning of the end. And the fact that they have to course correct in such a drastic way changes the fundamental way that they are going to be looked at as game makers, how their games are perceived, what their games are, how big their games are, how shiny they are, all those things. Because they can afford, if they're going to do $400 million games, they're going to have to sell them for at least $100, right? And that's where all these big games, prepare yourselves for this, because this is what's going to happen. It's already starting with Spider-Man 3. Every Sony first-party PlayStation exclusive that is a super high-budget AAA banger, like Uncharted, Last of Us, Spider-Man, probably Wolverine 2 as well, will be cut into parts, like Final Fantasy, like Spider-Man 3, because their budgets are too high on making these games. And in order to create that quality of game that they are so known for and expected to present to their player base, they have to charge more. And the only way they can charge more is to split the production cost. So it's still $400 million, $400 million to make a game, right? But it's not a bigger game. It's not going to be a bigger game. It'll be smaller chunks of the same size game. They figured out a way to charge you more. And like I said before, I don't see anything super egregious about it, but the fact that Sony is doing it makes it more egregious, because they have always been trying to get more money out of their customers. They've done it this generation by just raising the prices, and now they're raising the prices again with the facade of part 1, part 2, multiplayer. All these things are different. All these things are charging different costs or whatever. $50. I don't think they can get away with $50 on a multiplayer. I'm just being honest. So $50 for part 1, $50 part 2. Maybe multiplayer is free because it's a games as a service. Who knows? But you know, this is where Sony is. This is the drastic measures that they have to take in order to maintain and survive in this new gaming industry. Instead of creating an actual Game Pass competitor, they're doing this. So, I mean, it does differentiate them from Game Pass and from Xbox, but I don't think it's a better solution. It is a solution. I don't think it's better, because more people will still play on Game Pass. More people will still ingest gaming content through Game Pass than they will PS Plus or buying games off of PlayStation. But anyway, enough of that, all that stuff, rambles. I appreciate y'all showing me, hang on, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about the super list of how much Sony does not make on these digital games. These digital sales they are so low that I was like, this is not real, right? This can't be real. It's like, I know Sony didn't want to see. I'm gonna go and look at this Sony's price, their stock price. Yeah, very high. Sony is so boring. I'm gonna look at it and see if it went down because of this, because it's crazy. But anyway, I appreciate you showing like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think about all the things, about the change of the industry, just shifting the winds, and what Sony's strategy is, or lack thereof, a strategy. And do you think it will work? Do you think they will be able to, I was just gonna say maintain, not even succeed or surpass or grow? They're not in a growth state right now. They're in a I hope we don't shrink stage, and they have already shrunk a little bit, so we'll see. But anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging out, and I'll check you out on the next one. Take the weed.